Hello, good morning, everybody. How are you? Is it morning where you are? It is Tuesday, the 5th of July here in Australia. If you are in the US, happy 4th of July. And to my American friends who are on this side of the globe, happy 4th of July for yesterday. Sorry I didn't get in touch. I hope you had a good one, though. Excuse me. Tuesday chats for the day. What I wanted to share with you, as you would have seen in the event, I'm just setting up my phone over here. I want to talk to you today about gratitude journals. Why? Because I've had some conversations with people recently who I have spoken to about gratitude journals, and I think pretty much most people on the face of the earth these days who have got any interest in the personal development space will have heard of gratitude journals. Good morning, Alan. The thing is I think a lot of people don't really understand what they are or what they're used for or why they are of benefit. And so I wanted to share that with you guys today in the hopes that you can just make a better decision as to whether or not this is something you're going to include into your regular practice. Because there are those of us who use them all the time. There are those of us who don't even have one. And everything in between, and that's okay. This is completely okay. As you know, any of my conversations, it's a zero judgment zone. My goal is to share some information with you that you can use to potentially think about things a little bit differently, and then make your own decisions based on what's right for you and where you want your life to go and what success and what your goals and dreams are. It's all about what it is that's relevant for you. So let me jump into this. Now, as I'm talking, if you are, Pauline, hello, how are you? As I'm chatting with you, please drop your comments into the chat if you've got any questions or any feedback or just want to be a part of the conversation. I'm looking over here because I've got my phone set up on a little holder thingy so I can see the chat there, because when I'm looking directly at the camera, I can't see any of that stuff. So let's get into it. Gratitude journals, what are they? And are they really worth it? Short answer, yes. What are they? That's a little bit longer. But let me go into that part of it first. I think, like I said, most of us have heard of them. A lot of people talk about them, but why are they actually relevant? And what is a gratitude journal? Now, let me just... A gratitude journal can literally be anything. I have a beautiful red notebook that I haven't written in for a little while. That's my gratitude journal. And so right now I can't actually grab it to show it to you. However, it's just a notebook. But your gratitude journal can be anything that you are recording things on. You may choose to do a visual kind of journal, like as in writing stuff. You might want to do, maybe you're not like more artistic and creative and want to draw pictures or paint things. I know if anyone here knows the artist Anna Battles, I know when she goes to any event, she's always got art supplies in her bag, and she does a little painting, or usually a painting, of what she's looking at when she's at something that she wants to remember, so that when she goes back to that becomes a reminder of all the positives of all that event. That's a form of a gratitude journal. Other people will do a video diary. Others will type it onto a computer and put it in a Word document or something similar. It doesn't really matter what you do. The thing about a gratitude journal is it's about the journaling. It's about the recording of the journey, right? So that's really, a gratitude journal is simply whatever you make it and whatever it is that works for you. The most effective gratitude journal style that I've ever done was I have a small notebook. It's a beautiful notebook. The pages are gorgeous. The cover is divine. It feels really nice to be able to use this. And this is something that I talk about a lot, is that if you're going to write some stuff down that's, giving thanks for the great things in your life and planning out the things that you want to create in your future, writing that out on scratchy, horrible feral paper is not going to actually help you to feel into all of those things. It doesn't influence your vibration, if you want to take it down that path, in a way that is positive as you are recording these things. Ian, good morning. Oh my goodness, people from everywhere here. So if you are, when you are writing out these things, you know, in my office, like I've just got this, what is looks like a regular paper, right? Irregular regular paper that you buy from like Officeworks or any of the other stationery places are usually 80 GSM. Hello, Sandra. I spend a little bit more money. I don't print a great deal, but when I do, I spend a little bit more money, and I have 100 or 120 GSM paper. It feels so luxurious. It is beautiful. And it's not a great deal more, but the benefit to me when I feel this paper, and yes, I'm very tactile, but like all of these things are about making me feel better and imprinting more positive things into my subconscious around what I'm doing and what I'm creating. All right, so there's lots of these sorts of things. So going in and choosing a journal that feels beautiful to use, that helps to motivate you to write into this, is a really great thing. Now, like I said, the system that I've used previously with a lot of success is simply, I write a little line across the top that says, hello, Sandra, that says, I'm so happy and grateful for, and then I do a bullet points, 10 down the page, and I fill it. That's it. When did I first start doing that? I started doing that probably 8 or 10 years ago, maybe not even that long ago, actually. The time when now it's probably more relevant to share about the time in my life rather than the actual time frame. I started gratitude journaling on a regular basis when I was in my period where I was depressed. So, you know, I've probably honestly had about 15 years of postnatal depression that went undiagnosed and untreated. Maybe not that much. Might have been more like 10 years. I don't know. Again, the time frames don't matter. It was a long period of time though, where I was in a really flat space and didn't realize it. And eventually I got into such a deep hole that I needed some help, and, you know, saw a doctor, got onto some antidepressants, saw a psychologist, and dug my way out of that, and worked really hard on rearranging my thought patterns so that I could be the human I had the capacity to be, right? And to move forwards from that. In amongst that journey, I came across this method of gratitude journaling because I had seen so many others. I know that there are those who will sit and just automatically write for 20 minutes. At that time in my life, I couldn't see myself allocating at 20 minutes of uninterrupted time to do anything that was only for me. I was so engrossed in the raising the family, taking care of the kids, sorting out the house, you know, being the mum taxi, all these other things, right, that I could not see that I could allocate 20 minutes to myself at that point in time. Now, when I look back on that, I realized that that was the paradigm I was operating from, and it wasn't the most effective, but hey, that's where I was at that point in time. However, I could say 5 minutes, and I could write, I'm so happy and grateful for, and do a list of 10 in 5 minutes. I could sit and, you know, each morning I would have a cup of tea. Normally I would drink that cup of tea on the run because there was so much to do, right? I was so busy. And I still fall into some of those patterns. I'm not saying it's not relevant, or it's not that I'm suddenly like, you know, that none of this is relevant to who I am as a person anymore. But if I knew that I needed to write my gratitude journal, I could sit and drink a cup of tea while I did the journaling, and I got 2 things done at once, and I felt like I was being productive, and it had a really massive benefit to me as an individual. Now, that's a reflection of where I was in that phase of my life and where my mindset was at that time. When it comes to gratitude journaling though, how you do it, that's up to you. You could do whatever you like. And if you want some ideas on what that looks like for you, you know, I'm more than happy to have a chat. And it's something that I've talked about a lot with my clients in my coaching. I talk about it in my retreats and in the workshops that I do. It's simply that in amongst the context of this webinar, it's probably not, you know, like I said, there's as many people there are on the planet is as many ways as you can create a gratitude journal, and probably more, right? So it's whatever it is that looks and feels right and is effective and something that you can commit to on a regular basis. Now, Why do you do it though? Like, what's the point? Ultimately, what we're working on is rewiring your brain. Now, I know that sounds like a really big thing to be working on in terms of, for the sake of writing out a few things, right? And like in my case, it's literally doing 10 dot points. So for the sake of this conversation, I'm just going to refer back to that particular methodology of gratitude journaling. But please just remember that this is not the only way that you can do it. You can, like I said, do it any way you like. And actually what I would love is if any of those of you who are on here, who are watching, do you gratitude journal? Have you journaled like this before? What, if so, what do you do? Tell me, join in the conversation, please, because at the moment I'm sitting here talking to a computer, right? So why do we do it? It's about rewiring our brain. Our brain operates, so we've got, if you think about it, and it is kind of structurally that way, you've got your neocortex across the top, and right down in the middle, like smack in underneath here, you've got the limbic brain, or the prehistoric brain, right? The prehistoric or the limbic brain drives anywhere from 85 to 95% of our behavior, depending on who you talk to and what you're doing. And when we are journaling and changing our focus, so in my case, where I was in that very depressed state of mind and what had happened was I had gotten into this habitual process of not acknowledging the negatives. I was actually, on the outside, most people perceive me as being a really positive person, and honestly, I am a glass half full kind of person more often than not, because I do firmly believe that when you work hard enough, there's always a win-win in every situation you come to, right? It often takes a whole lot of, creative thinking to get to there, but it certainly exists. Now, I had gotten to the point where I was defaulting, though, like I was, all this stuff was happening in my world, and some of it was great and some of it wasn't, and I was presenting this wonderful everything's fine image to the world, and on the inside I was crumbling, and most people didn't recognize it, and those who did, when they tried to help, I wouldn't accept it. And so I ended up in this sort of situation where I was just kind of dying on the inside. And it's not an uncommon thing, in that none of what I was living through was particularly unusual. There's a lot of people I've spoken to who have similar patterns in terms of particularly that whole concept of not being able to accept help. But it just meant that over a period of time, I kind of dug myself into this really deep hole, and it was very hard to get out. And I was in that space where literally I just could not see. That's when all the negativity started to show to the rest of the world as well, but only to select few. And because what had happened was that I had just created these habits that were just digging me down and down and down. And so what I needed to do was to change those habits. It was habits of both thought and of behavior that I needed to shift. And honestly, if you sort of have a think about even something as simple as changing a thought pattern that relates to the way that you speak. So when I do these talks, I become very conscious of the filler words that I use. So I will, be sharing, and then I go, right, do you understand? You know what I mean? All right, these little things, I've just done it again, these little bits that are in there that are just habits. I don't need to share that with you, but while I share that's a habitual thought. It's a habitual process. I don't even realize I've done it until after the sound has escaped from my mouth, and by then it's too late. What I need to do is to consciously think about saying something different. Trying to say to myself, I'm not going to use filler words, is completely useless. But what I can do is say, instead of using a filler words, I'm going to do something else. You replace the negative with something that is more positive. Hello, Sue. If you are in that negative thought patterns, again, just saying to yourself, I'm not going to be negative anymore, is kind of useless, because your subconscious doesn't understand negatives. So you've just told it, instead of saying I'm not going to be negative, it's heard I'm going to be negative. And also, actually stopping a behavior is almost impossible. Replacing a negative behavior with a positive behavior is still a challenge, but it's much more doable. And that's really how you change behavior patterns in any pattern, whether that's a physical behavior, whether it's a thought behavior. And the gratitude journal is about doing that. It's about bringing your focus onto the positives of your world, so that when you review your day, whether it's in the morning or the evenings, or just it's a random time that works with your diary, whenever you review it, you're looking for the positives. Certainly, it's not about ignoring the negatives, because there are always ways that you can, maybe you've had a really great day at work, and then something happened within your business, and you've maybe you lost a big sale because of a particular pattern that happened, or a particular thing that happened. Going back and reviewing what's happened so that you can change that process within your business is definitely worth doing. But it's not about going back and beating yourself up about the fact that you didn't get that sale. It's about going back and reviewing and go, okay, this is what worked well, and this is the behavior or the pattern or the step within that process that we need to modify. Can you see the difference there? So it's really, like I said, it's about rewiring. And like I said, in amongst all this, so, in this whole big roundabout kind of way that I've ended up taking, the process of a gratitude journal is about rewiring what's happening on the limbic level of your brain. It's about rewiring those automatic steps, so that when you are presented with something that's a little on the negative, or the result is not what you wanted, or the person that you're speaking to hasn't reacted in the way that you would have hoped them to, that you don't default into the negative space, that instead you move into a positive or proactive space. Does that make sense? Let me just check in on comments for a moment, because I know there've been some up here. Sorry. It's the joys of operating by yourself in your own business. Sue, hello, how are you? Absolutely. So Sue said here, I'm a huge believer in journaling. As you know, it helps improve my mood and enables me to see things clearer, good and bad. Absolutely. Good morning, Amy at Amor Mexico. If you're in Melbourne, make sure you go and check out Amor Mexico. I just can't wait to get there. So I can see that there's some other people watching who haven't commented yet. Say hello. If nothing else, tell me where you're from. Are you warm? Because I don't know about you, but I'm not very far from Toowoomba, and it's damn cold. It's drizzly and it's winter and it's supposed to be cold, but holy smokes, it's cold. All right, so gratitude journaling. Yes, it's about rewiring your brain. It's about changing the habitual thought processes so that as you come into something that's a challenge in particular, that you will meet it with a positive mindset, or you're more likely to meet it with a positive mindset. It's not a magic wand. It's not going to instantly shift all the things in your world that are challenging right now. But it helps to shift your perspective. It helps to move your focus onto the good stuff, onto what you can change. Good morning, Ali. Hello. Excuse me, 1 second. And shifting that focus from where your default has been onto something that is more positive is always going to make you feel better, if nothing else. And if, like, seriously, you have a talk to Aloni who's on here right now about wanting to feel better. When you've the whole feeling better puts a positive shine on everything that's coming ahead of you. So as I was doing some prep for today, I went through and I had a look at a bunch of different stuff, and I want to just share with you some of the other things that have come up. Some of this is anecdotal, some of this is research based, because there's a bunch of stuff that has been spoken about online in around gratitude journals. But I want to share with you some of the things that have been proven to come out of in different ways. Like I said, some of it's anecdotal, some of it is like full-blown research-based. Good morning, Carmel. In terms of ways that gratitude journals will help you. So yes, it's about rewriting your brain or rewiring your brain so that you can see things more positively. It helps you connect better with your thoughts and feelings. Now, have a really good think about that. If you have either are right now in a space where it's a little bit challenging, or you have been in that space, have a think how connected you were with your thoughts and your feelings. I know that for me, when I was in a really negative space, the thoughts and feelings were almost removed from me. It was almost like thoughts and feelings were here, and then there was this big, heavy weight that was me as a human away from it. It was just weird, right? Like when I look back at it now, given that I'm not in that headspace these days, but there was a real disconnect with the thoughts and feelings. It was like I had no control. And honestly, we do have a lot of control around our thoughts and feelings. Many of us don't exercise that control because, quite frankly, many people are not aware of that. And so there's a few different elements to this. Our initial reactions often are, this whole, when we are in a default negative kind of mindset, we get presented with a challenge and we fall into a pit, right? That pattern is actually able to be changed. But you've got to be aware of the pattern that exists first before you can change that pattern. And a lot of people don't actually connect that pattern exists within them. So this is what I mean about being disconnected from your thoughts and feelings. When you are aware that that is your pattern, if that applies to you, and that's not a pattern that you want to maintain, then it's about, okay, how do I unpack this pattern? Where do I go from here to change this pattern that I have right now? Say it's about, I've got a dream board workshop coming up on the 16th of July, right? And I've been promoting it out there, and this event's going great guns. We've got an amazing group of people coming into the room. Other events that I've run, my numbers have been a lot less, and it's been a kind of expensive exercise, right? And that's okay. It's a part of my business journey. I'm not sad about that. It's brought me to right here, right now. That's a great thing. On days when it's more when my brain is just not doing great, and I'm having it, maybe I'm overtired, maybe I've slept wrongly, maybe I've in pain, maybe I've, whatever. Like I'm human. We all have these cycles. I don't want my life to be like this because I'm not dead yet, right? There's going to be ups and downs. But if I look at the fact that, some of my workshops I run, I've had very few people in them, I could go home and, mentally beat myself up over that. Or I can turn around and go, well, what did I not do great? Where did I not promote well? What could I improve for next time? How do I make this better? Right. So can you see that I can either sit there and, dig myself into a horrible pit of despair, or I can look at this seemingly negative outcome, or an outcome that's not what I wanted it to be. I can either see it as that's the nail in the coffin of my business, or this is a stepping stone to greater things. This is the thing. Where do you currently sit? Where's your mindset right now? Yes, absolutely, Ali. Ebbs and flows it's what makes life and the world and everything interesting, exciting. So Amy, as in Amor Mexico, Amy is Amor Mexico. She is half of the partnership that is that business. I've been journaling for the past 32 years. The past 5 years, I've been focusing on gratitude. I realized when our intention is to focus our life on gratitude, gratitude becomes our way of life. Oh my God. Mic drop. Hello. Absolutely, Amy. This shift positively helps me in all areas, especially my business and my relationship with others. Oh, absolutely, Amy. My goodness, I could not agree more. It is so, so true. So let me get back to what I was sharing. I do have notes here, I promise. The other things that have been shown to come out of journaling, as Amy has just spoken about, is that increase in positivity, right? So for me, my pattern when I'm regularly gratitude journaling, and quite frankly, at the moment I'm not, I gratitude journal sort of every so often. When I get into a negative mind space, I gratitude journal more often to help, because it has helped me so much to get out of that space. It's like I cannot understate how much the process of gratitude journaling has helped me, honestly, to shift where I was. And quite frankly, when, like I was saying, years ago, I was medicated for depression. And through that process, I started gratitude journaling. But the journaling came in sort of towards the end of when I was actually on the medication. Before that, I was working with a psych, and it was actually a coach who suggested to me about the gratitude journaling. When I look back at the steps that were needed, I know the antidepressants were needed to kind of sort of, turn the boat around, for want of a better word, right? And it was something, honestly, that I was incredibly embarrassed about. It took me such a long time to share with anybody other than my husband and my GP that I was using this medication. And the thing is that when I look back at it now, oh my God, the self-judgment was horrendous. And it wasn't like I had no problem with other people who were on antidepressants. It was the fact that I needed it. That was, my standards for myself are like ridiculous beyond what I expect of other people. But in that very first discussion, the GP said to me, if you had a broken leg and you came in here, you would take a set of crutches and think nothing of it. The antidepressants are like crutches for your mind right now. It's about helping your mind to make that shift, right? And they did. They made a big shift. But if I look at that journey of getting, and I think, honestly, I needed the antidepressants to kind of, like I said, turn the tide. But if I look at proportionately what did most for helping my personal mindset, now this is not necessarily what anyone else has seen, but for me as an individual, I actually think gratitude journaling did more for me in terms of getting me out of that rut and out of those processes than the medication did. And I know that's a big call, but I firmly believe that. I don't think I would have gotten the results if I had only gratitude journaled. Like I said, I think I needed the drugs to get the process started. But in terms of that overall journey of getting from that really dark and horrible place to where I am, where I live most of the time these days, more of that journey is like gratitude journaling is responsible for more of that journey than the medication ever could be. So other things that have come out of, one of the things about this whole positivity side of things, I find journaling in the morning sets me up really well. I have gratitude for the things that have happened, whether it's that, just that morning or previous days or whatever, and it sets my mindset into a good space for the next, for the rest of the day. One of my clients, though, she does her gratitude journaling at nighttime. And because as she goes to bed at night, she uses the journal to help to quiet the self-talk, to bring her focus for the day onto the positives of the day rather than the other things that have happened. And if you look at the research, that, it actually says that gratitude journaling in the evening in most cases is more effective. Well, I can't do that when I go to bed, because as soon as my head hits the pillow, I'm out. I'm not an overthinker. But I do find, like I said, for me, my pattern is get up in the morning, have a cup of tea, write in my journal, and that sets me up for a really great day. Where's these comments gone? So Aloni's written, my goodness, hang on, Aloni, what helps you get there though, Terry? What is the step in between? I know a lot of us can get stuck in the actual opening and finding something to be grateful for. What is the tip you've got there? So I'm not a person who's going to suggest that you regularly compare yourself to others, right? But if you are really stuck in terms of finding something that is positive in your life, have a look around your house. Have a look at the fact that right now in our area where I live, it is bitterly cold. It is rainy. It is wet. There's a sneaky little breeze that just gets into your bones. You've got a roof over your head, and you've probably got blankets, and you've got food in your belly, and probably, some heat source in your house, whether it's a fire or air conditioning or whatever. Right there. There's like 6 or 8 things that can go straight into your gratitude journal. Is the fact that you are warm, that you can escape from the cold, that you can sleep well. Have a look at what your life is right now compared to how people who are currently living homeless for whatever reason, and compare what they're living through right now. It's pretty simple. And literally, like, one of the things, often my top of my gratitude journal is for my beautiful cup of tea or my gorgeous cup. Like, one of the things I completely love is these water bottles, right? Why? There's a million things, but basically because it doesn't matter where I'm going, I can take my water bottle with me. And if I'm having a really bad day with my vertigo, I can drink out of these without tipping my head backwards. That there, keeping me hydrated and healthier. I'm so grateful for these water bottles. It's not funny. They will make it to my gratitude list. You don't have to have some big fancy thing. It can be that I ate a really juicy, delicious, fresh, crisp apple today. There is anything that brings you joy can go into your gratitude journal. Anything that is positive around you. It is whatever lifts you just a little bit can make it into your gratitude journal. And you can write if you really stop and think about it, you can write for hours. You can be grateful that the sky is blue, that we've had some rain, that we've got beautiful, like ridiculously overgrown grass right now. The flowers that we have that are out, to watch the birds flying around. There's so many things that, look, if you're really in a very negative space, look outside yourself. Look at the things that are outside you that you have no control over, that are just there. You can enjoy a sunset. I love the fact that I can walk into a room and flick a switch and I get light. I love the fact that I can sit here and talk to you across Zoom, and all I've got to do is press a couple of buttons, right? I have no idea how this stuff works in the background, and I don't care. I'm very grateful to the people who create it because I can connect with you. That's the thing that I want to be able to do, is to connect with you as a human being. Start simple. If you're really in a very difficult space, start simple. What's the favorite thing that you like to eat? Maybe I'm a mad pumpkin soup fan. I've hardly eaten any this winter so far. I'm really grateful that it's pumpkin soup weather. I love that. I just got to find a crusty bread that doesn't have gluten in it, but that's a whole nother conversation. So, do you know what I mean? Like, just look for whatever it is that gives you some joy. Anything. I know, Ali, you've got a beautiful little boy at home. Maybe it's the fact that it's his smile. Maybe it's the whole, he's woken you up again for a 2:00 feed because he wants his mum so much. Because yes, you can even love those midnight feeds and all those, broken nights sleep, because my goodness, I've now got a 15-year-old and a 19-year-old. I don't get broken sleep from them, right? And look, I appreciate the sleep, I'm not going to say it, but I do know that, in the years to come, if our son decides to continue to live at home after he's an adult and, the mum taxi needs to go, I'm going to be grateful for those broken nights sleep where he rings me and says, Mum, come and get me from the club, right? Because I'd rather do that than risk him either getting behind the wheel or driving with someone who's not safe. I'll go and pick him up. Be grateful for the fact that he wants me to do that. Okay. It's so there are so many levels of anything. And literally you can look at, my God, I'm losing a night's sleep, or, oh my goodness, my son wants me to go and pick him up because I'm his safe place. It's exactly the same scenario, two different perspectives, right? Excuse me, sorry. Amy said, oh, I missed one. Today, the first thing I'm grateful for is the sun. Oh, absolutely, Amy. We've got grey skies at the moment. Sorry, I'm just making sure I haven't missed any of the really important comments in here. Why don't we start a 21 days gratitude journal in this group? Absolutely, we can. Absolutely. I have previously done gratitude challenges, and I actually think that that's a challenge to put on, like if you wanted to do it on social media, putting a challenge out on your personal profile that shares with other people, I think that's better than doing it within a group, because you just don't know who it's going to impact. You don't know who's having a challenging day. Maybe, Ali, given that, like I was mentioning before about you having a little person at home, and I don't know if he's still waking you up for midnight feeds, I've got no idea. But if he is, and you put a comment on there about so grateful for the midnight feeds, another mum who's really challenged by that at the moment may see that, and so it may help them. So I'm really, and obviously there's levels of privacy, share what's relevant to you, what's not. But if you're going, and look, I'm happy, I would love to do another gratitude challenge, honestly. So let's do that, but let's share it publicly. And share the things that you want people to, that you're happy with people to see. Obviously, I'm not saying put all the things out there that you're not comfortable with, but let's see what we can do about sharing gratitude into the wider community, so that it has the capacity to help those people who right now maybe they're in a space where they're not willing to help themselves, or not. Sorry, that's not the right wording. Not willing to ask for help. Because there's very few people who are not willing to help themselves. A lot of people just don't know how. They don't know how to ask the question. They don't know how to, what's the word I'm thinking of? They don't know how to, sometimes it's about admitting to the general public or to people that they need help. And other times, sometimes you can get into a deep enough hole that you don't even realize that you need it, or you don't even know how to ask for the help that you need if you are aware that you need help. Does that make sense? So let's do a challenge, absolutely, but let's share it publicly. And Amy's going to join us too. That's awesome. Sandra's popped in here. For me, it's the 4 Ps: people, protection, provision, and prosperity. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love, Sandra, that you love to systemize these things. There's always a thread that comes through for you. So a couple of other things I want to mention about journaling that I'm still trying to work through this stuff. Most of the stuff I've already touched on, but there's a couple of things that are really important. Gratitude journaling has been shown to improve relationships, which then by default helps to reduce loneliness. How many people do you know in this world that are lonely? It's like it's the purge of the 21st century. Seriously. So many people are lonely. So many people feel disconnected. We are so connected through social media, and yet so many people have that connection, but don't really feel like they have that true emotional connection, that emotionally strong bond with other people. So gratitude journaling can help with that. And ultimately, all of this stuff helps to improve your resilience. Because we know everybody has been challenged by this world. Life is about challenging us to see what we are capable of and to help us to grow so that we can then face the next challenge. And the greater the challenge that's thrown at us, the more that we know that we have the capacity to get through. Because I don't know that anybody, I've never seen somebody faced with a challenge that they couldn't actually rise to the occasion if they chose to. Some people don't know how to, and that's okay, but we can support them. You know what I mean? But in amongst all this, right, Challenges come along, we work our way through that one and we take the next step. And then we work our way through that one and we take our next step. And this is growth. This is how we improve who we are. This is how we grow our businesses. It's how we grow our relationships. It's how we grow everything. Gratitude journaling, though, helps you to get over those challenges sooner, faster, more effectively, with a better attitude, with a joy and a spring in your step, instead of, dragging your body across it, right? So that resilience is, a really key part of gratitude journaling. The other thing that comes out of, and I've found this, and I didn't really expect it, honestly, but being able to go back into my journals and look at what I wrote all that time ago and what I was grateful for then. And also I can kind of get back into that headspace that I was, and being grateful for the progress. Being able to have a record of that progress is really important. And another thing, and this is probably the last thing I want to share with you, honestly, is it gets all your, you can use journaling, and particularly gratitude journaling, but journaling in general, to get all those thoughts and ideas out of your head, to take the jumble and lay it out on paper. And then as you choose, tease it apart, address the problems, be grateful for the great stuff, improve those, magnify those. But it's about, there's so much, often, we've got so much happening in our heads that if we can get it out on paper, it helps us to go through that process of, I guess, unpacking, analyzing, working out what's worth, we've only got so much headspace. And our thoughts take up all of it, but not every thought deserves a space there. That's really valuable real estate. And if you've got all these thoughts in there that are not serving you well, do they actually deserve that little space of real estate that is your mind? However, if you don't identify them, take them out, analyze them, as in take them out in terms of putting them onto paper, they'll just stay there rent-free. And they'll shove out all the other positive stuff. It's not so great. So, there's, like I said, there's another one of these benefits of gratitude journaling. So, where to from here? Yes, I'd love for you guys to start this challenge. And one of the things that I guess in terms of all of this is, and look, I'm actually going to make it a 100-day challenge on my personal page. And it's still literally just going to be hashtag 100-day gratitude challenge. I'll share a post of that later today. I'd love to see people share both as like a combination across the days of written posts and maybe even some videos, right? But that's a whole nother conversation. One of the things that you can, like, most people know that with the work that I do, if you look up this sign behind me, one of the things that I do is I run workshops. Now, my workshops are about teaching people how to create a dream board that is a focus of what their life is that they are creating. Now, I've got another one of those coming up on the 16th of July. I'll share about that I'll put a link into that to that event into the post later. One of the things that I noticed when I had a client who came to a workshop who was in a very negative headspace was that when they were sitting there doing the workshop, it was a real challenge for them to find things that they wanted to create in their life. Like, it was probably the hardest for, like, watching that person's individual journey in terms of working through the processes that we go through within the workshop, and then creating a dream board at the very end. Because if you ever come to one of my workshops, I don't just let you loose on magazines to go and create a thing. There's a very deliberate process that I take you through to essentially unpack your brain and design your life, and then you create a visual that represents that life. And this one person who was in particular, actually there's two people who have come who have been in very negative headspaces when they started, found it very, very difficult to actually create that dream board. Now, I understand it's not an easy, a dream board is all about this life that you want to create, that you're working towards. And if you're in a very negative space, to actually even see that life or to dream about that life, it feels inauthentic. And so the gratitude journaling, particularly for this most recent lady who was a client, the other lady came into the workshop and didn't end up doing any additional work with me. But this lady who's a client, watching the shift that's created within her in terms of the journaling that she's been doing since we've been working together. I need to go back to her and have another conversation with her about her dream board, but I personally believe that watching the shift that she's created through our work and her gratitude journal will have helped her to make a dream board that is clearer, that she can believe in, that she knows that she can actually achieve, because she's shifted that mindset. So it's really powerful. Gratitude journaling is amazing. Seriously. So, but at this point, I'm going to wrap it up. I'll just check on messages in case there's any more in there. Just Amy saying goodbye because she's got to go, and that's okay. Thank you for those of you who've been on today. I've loved the chat. If you've got any more questions, please reach out. Just send me a private message, or however you found this through whatever social media you've connected to. Or just ring me if you've got my number. It's on all my websites and stuff. I'd love to have a chat. Would love to help you if you're looking for help. And like I said, I'll pop the details for the Dream Board workshop into the chat, so that for those who are there, I do have as just a little sort of public service announcement, I've got my dream retreat coming up in just a few weeks' time. It is the only, there we go, posted in already. The dream retreat that I've got coming up at Ballandine in the first week of August, it is the only retreat of its kind like that I am running each year. I am only running one a year. There are very limited numbers to that event. If this is something that is of interest to you, reach out. Let's chat. It's an incredibly powerful event. And yes, I run it, but it just absolutely is. The shifts that I've watched people create after doing the retreat last year, amazing. But on that note, I'm going to sign off. If, like I said, any questions, pop them in the chat. But for now, I'm going to say thank you for joining me. And for now, it's bye from me.